Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. So for today's episode, we are going to be talking about the theme of the month for where we are right now. June 2026 is the current month at the time of recording this. And can you imagine we're already halfway through the year of 2026? I hope that you're listening to this. You've had a lot of accomplishments, highlights, growth, and fulfillment along the way. Even in light of all the not so good stuff. But for myself, I must never forget that the not so good at times, the things that are unpleasant, are actually there for me. Must keep that higher perspective. Otherwise, I start getting into big deals and all this stuff, and I lose sight of the bigger picture. There is a bigger picture. So anyway, just getting into this theme right now. And the theme is leadership. Leadership. And to start things off, just look at a definition of the word leadership. And one definition I'll read here that I think is very appropriate is this. The position or function of a leader, a person who guides or directs a group. Now, as far as an experience, now we just got into the intellectual component of it. Now for the feeling component, the experience, leadership. I mean, one recent experience I had has a lot to do with my time management. And I recently just started setting aside some time to work on a project that I've been procrastinating and just been avoiding. Deep down when I know like I need to do it. And I just was being very proactive and just being more consistent. All right, I'm going to take some time and do this. And then at some point when I'm working on the project with my leadership, discern, okay, I think I've worked on this enough. Let me pause here to get and return back to it on, the next day. So that to me is like my experience and also kind of giving you a sense of my thoughts on leadership. And I'll talk a little bit more about that this episode as well. But that's just an example there. It's just I just been feeling fulfilled tackling that thing, at least that one project I had in my mind. Actually, I feel like I could tell you here right now is the one project I'm working on right now is putting together my website. And that's something that I want to share more about and make it more available once I have it all cleaned up and whatnot. So if you're reading this, if you're listening to this, just a little sneak peek there and to include in the show notes and all my information. So stay tuned for that if you want, if you're interested. Where I'm going to talk about my offerings, what I'm about, almost like it serves like a portfolio, a resume of sorts of what I'm about. You know, for people who know me a little bit or don't know me at all. But anyhow, back to the topic at hand. The spiritual theme of the month, leadership. And so now I'm going to go into the meditation. I'm about to read it right now. Going to throw in some little echo effects, just letting you know, as I've always done in the past, but just felt the need to let you know there. And I invite you to just tune in, use this opportunity to discern what resonates, what stands out to you, because I know I want to share with you what stands out to me. And so, in the theme of leadership, I'm going to focus on the excerpt that talks about life force. Life force. And the key for that, it says expressing leadership is expressing life force. So here we go. I need to distinguish between being greedy and being loyal to myself. The word selfish can unfortunately stimulate guilt, rejection, and even confrontation. But the dirty little secret is, if I don't have a strong sense of self, I am operating on nothing, wholly without life force energy. I have often heard said that the ultimate is selflessness. This is a material or physical way to look at things, and there is some truth to it. Just not all the truth. The bigger picture and spiritual perspective is the more I truly love myself, the more that love will expand to encompass people, the world, and the universe. It is my life force expressed. Spirit loves working with such kind of souls. It is the manifestation of leadership, regardless whether I am leading or following. So here it is. I am a soul with a purpose and a plan. Does that not say it all? I don't have leadership. I am leadership. So, reading that, I already felt this sense of power, especially when it comes to leadership. Man, leadership is, in a lot of ways, I kind of see it as like the tip of the iceberg. It's a lot of misunderstandings about leadership, especially because of myself. I always thought to be a leader, it had to do with people and being able to like tell people what to do or this or this and that, right? And I always felt like my capacity as a leader, I don't know, I felt mixed types of ways. But I'm at a place where I've come to understand the many layers that there is to just leadership, many layers to leadership than just having to do with people. That is a big component to it, right? And when I mentioned the definition, and that specific definition I chose, there's something there. There's two keys: guide, direct. Guide, direct. When it talked about leadership. So in other words, it's not about enforcing some sort of authority or telling people what to do. That is not leadership. That's that's like tyranny. That's like trying to manipulate, that's controlling. And because of the way it frames it, the definition, it's like leadership has to do with that inspiring in people rather than trying to enforce or anything like that. Influence also was another word that came up. It's like me helping to influence through my example, influencing people in a positive way. We all can influence each other because we're energy. We're spiritually sensitive and can pick up thoughts and feelings and a whole lot of things in the environment and those close to us in our proximity. So what I love about this excerpt, it's really redefining the script, which I love. It's what I'm all about because so many of us are been programmed on things that don't longer serve us anymore. Maybe at a certain point in time it did, but now I'm sure going through life, having experiences and all those things, at some point there are some things that just don't longer fit. There's a need to outgrow things. It's like some things are meant to just be there for a period of time, right? And so here, the changing the script, I remember I was brought up to believe that to truly be of service to somebody, I had to be selflessness, almost to the point where I felt like it was glorified. Now, one of the beautiful things I mentioned, the excerpt mentioned, was that it's not all the truth. Now, there is truth to selflessness in the sense that there are moments when I have to focus my energy and attention on the person that I'm tending to, whatever the situation may be. However, what precedes all of that, I need to make sure I've got myself. I need to make sure I consider myself and where I'm at, how do I feel? Make sure I'm good in that good capacity to be able to assist. Then I just move in. And this happens dynamically and it can happen quickly in various scenarios, right? But it's like that flow. It starts with me. than the person that perhaps I'm reaching out to, I'm relating with, I'm connecting with, assisting. So I need to remember that. If I start to go out of place and I start to just focus on the person and forget myself, like you mentioned there, I am operating out of nothing. That's why it's good to have a little bit of selfishness. Because if I don't, I'm not operating out of myself, my own life force energy. And I'm just, for better, for no, actually, no, not even for better. It's just, I'd be like basically like a doormat, or I might as well just be some kind of robot. People can just tell me what to do. But we all have, but here's the thing. And then it mentions it here in the excerpt. It's like, you are a soul with a purpose and a plan. Or internalize this. I am a soul with a purpose and a plan. Sit with that. Meaning you matter, you are significant, and you have something you're here to work on. And that involves yourself. In fact, you could say our being here on this planet, I mean, if people if I make my personal growth a way of life, and if that's so selfish, I mean, that's to me is ridiculous. But like, in a sense, well, if that's on that basis, then us coming to planet Earth is selfish, because this planet here is a school. At least how I show up. It's a school for self-discovery, for me to be able to work on myself, the things I need to master in my own spiritual evolution. There is a need as a soul to evolve, to expand. I would equate it so much so with living. If I'm going through growth, I'm living. If I'm not, I'm dying. I'm withering. I'm lifeless. Think about it looking at nature, because I'll always look at the natural world as a reflection and indicative of the reality, especially of the universe. It doesn't take a rocket science to understand the simple things, especially understanding the universe. When you look at plants or trees and whatever, right, if they have to be growing, there's always like this constant growth. You know, something I'm always dealing with, like vegetation for my job, right? There's growth, growth, growth. I'm like, yeah, it's a thing. Because if it's not growing, what happens? It's going to die. There's never a stagnant point when you look at plant growth, right? It's always growing, always. And even at a certain point, it might slow down a bit, and there might be points where it accelerates, but it's still happening. But then when parts of the plant start to wither and die, I don't know, in my experience, I've seen it start to affect the rest of the plant. Like I think about some of the house plants that I've had, and I'm doing my best, or house plants that my sister will bring and purchase, and she'll take care of. She does her best maintaining it, but yet that's part of the natural thing of life that happens. It starts to wither with time. It's just part of the game here. It's what happens. So growth, being here, you know. So our endeavor here, you know, part of us being here and going through our experiences, learning to be loyal to ourselves, because it is from there that we can be. If I'm not loyal to myself, how can I be loyal to my country? How can I be loyal to those close to me? If I don't have that sense of quality built within myself, I can't give to people what I don't already have within myself. Do you understand? I say I, but I mean this for other people as well too. But I speak in I because I speak for myself. And I assume this is the case for everybody else, in my opinion. So, selfishness and selflessness, they both have a place, and it's a balance. Right? And when it comes to leadership, going back to that, you know, yes, there's a component with people, but there's also, it's a very powerful and important ingredient in my relationship with myself. Right? I can guide and direct people, but I can also do that to myself. When I'm focused, What is that? What is that? What am I doing? I'm directing my energy. Because the way I see, like I'm understanding my energy, is like imagine like a flowing river constantly. Because that's, as a soul, we're a pattern of energy. And I think a river is like a perfect way of capturing it, because wherever my attention and focus goes, and it has to go somewhere, it's always constantly flowing towards. Again, think like a river. I can't think of a better example, but to me it fits. And so, with that, with my energy and attention flowing like a river, I have to guide and direct that. Now, because of programmings and circumstances and conditions, I may direct that towards things that aren't so good. Things that perhaps, let's say I might have a negative perspective on chores, day-to-day routines, like, oh, this is so, I feel some type of way about this. And I'm pouring my energy into this pessimism, this sense of like looking at things as like a chore, or being responsible is boring or sucks or is lame. But that's not the only destination that my river of attention can flow towards. For me, I allow my energy and attention to flow towards adventure, even trying to infuse that into my day-to-day chores, because guess what? We're going to have to keep doing them. Can't avoid them. I mean, if I were to avoid them, I don't know about you, but if I avoid it, then I'm just going to invite more trouble. And there's just going to be more and more and more stockpiling. And then it's like, hey, having my own little shit show going on here. God forbid I bring someone else into the mix. No thanks. If I get in my own shit, that'll just be myself. If I invite anyone in, it's for that helping hand, for that assistance. Not to make people cater to my BS. So I need to be a leader of myself. You need to be a leader of yourself, in my opinion. And leadership with the self happens in so many ways. An example could be as it relates to emotions. If someone says something to me that makes me feel some type of way, how I act, because the feelings and emotions will come up. That's normal. I'm going to feel some type of way because X, Y, Z. That is normal. Where it makes all the difference is, what do I do with that? When I'm feeling some type of way in the situation, perhaps caused by this person, maybe they said something to me, what am I going to do about it? And that part right there is where the leadership is required, is needed. It is the difference between me being a leader and not, depending on what I do. And so I need leadership so that I don't allow my emotions to control me. Otherwise, I become reactive to things. I might get stimulated by something in the news or something. All that is just like just emotionally stimulating. Hell, if I'm even like the fact that if I'm choosing to ingest news media, to me that's not a good leadership. That's not good leadership. Because I understand the game of all that stuff. News media has a place, right? Just like there's truth in everything. It has a place, but then at a certain point it's like, nah, I'm not gonna waste any more time with that. I've got my stuff to do, to work on, the people I need to be involved with, etc., etc. So that's a very big component that I want you to think about, redefining leadership in a way that's all-encompassing, because it's more than just having to do with other people. Another way for me that's been coming up as far as where I have opportunity for leadership has to do with my eating habits. I like to snack on things a lot, almost too often, especially like I have a sweet tooth. And something that I've been thinking about was allow myself to feel deprived, to sit with the hunger. Because the meals I eat are great. Like there's no problems with them at all. But then these cravings start coming up and I start giving into it. Which, red flag, I already lost my own sense of agency. I'm not exercising my own leadership by giving into those impulses. It doesn't feel like I'm directing myself and my energy. So I think for me, the invitation for myself is to take some time when I find myself, oh, I feel hungry, I want to eat something. Like it always seems like I have to fill the void. I'm like, hold up. Let me practice and sit with hunger for a moment. And like I said, meaning like, between meals, but because like it's not like I'm depriving myself from fasting. Like I said, it's just depriving myself of snacks and just to sit with the light hunger that comes about and instead replace it with drinking water. And I can always for myself have more times to drink more water, and water is so crucial, especially for the body to be able to process and for it to do its thing normally. So I'm kind of tying in an element there of like the discipline, which I think is a part of leadership, discipline. And then, as I said before, and I'll bring it back again, another aspect of leadership is my time, energy, and attention. What my energy and attention and what I do with it, what I do with my time, are good measures of my own leadership. Really, the threat to my leadership, and I'll use that term very loosely, are the habits. My habits, those things that I've been carrying on for so long, or wasn't vigilant enough, that started to like unfold and develop. Sometimes I don't know about you, but I've had some habits that just snuck up on me. I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? Hello. But I think when with awareness and checking out, oh, I find myself not being my own leader in the situation. One of the important things to that is to give myself grace. Because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh, why am I doing this? Or why? I'm like, geez, I'm like my own worst like parent, just nag at myself. Like, geez, like it sounds ridiculous to talk about, but I know it's a pattern that's there that I'm working through myself. My experiences tell me so. I'm at a different place where I can like much more relaxed and calm to be able to talk about this stuff, and so I recognize that. And then also when I find myself slipping up, another component that for me it's been a learning, I guess you could say learning curve, is just not to make a big deal out of it. Because too often it's like making big deals out of stuff. Our spirit guides don't make a big deal out of nothing because they have a big picture. They understand and see things from a bird's eye point of view. And like I said, even like hindsight 2020, that's like looking at things from a bird's eye view. Meaning we are capable, we can do that, we've done that, you've done that before. So I've definitely had experiences that I've had when I look back on it, where there is that challenge of like, okay, let me not make a big deal about something that happened in the past, because that's a thing. But instead to just be detached, okay. And I think really examining the lens that I look through my past is very important. And for me, something that has helped a lot is to begin to look at my past. If I'm going to evaluate an experience I had, what's helped me a lot is just to look at it from the perspective of self-understanding. Remember, I mentioned earlier in this episode that we came to this planet, to school, because part of it is there for self-discovery. We came here to find ourselves, for in our own spiritual evolution. And so looking at from the lens of self-understanding, that to me has helped me to work better with my past, rather than the judgments like, oh, why did I do this? I could have done that. The shoulda, woulda, blah, blah, coulda, blah, blah, blah. All that blah BS programming, emotional programming, or really it's an intellectual programming. And to just rise above that. I think that's another component of what it means to be a leader, to exercise leadership, to rise above those habit patterns that don't help, that are negative, that work against me, to rise above it. There's no way out but up. Think about it from the perspective of, like, I like to visualize and look at those not so good habits as a maze, right? Because like I'm in the trenches and I'm just like all these things, and there's so much going on there that it's just emotions and stimulating and left and right, you know? Think about all the worst things of the human experience that people experience, like that people have right in this maze and just in the trench, nose in the ground. But even looking at a maze, if I were to rise and float up, I can see the entirety of the maze and where I'm at. Bigger picture perspective. Hindsight 2020. Making sense of the senseless or the seemingly chaotic. So a maze is a good way I would describe of those habit patterns. If I'm caught into something, oh shoot, I'm in this maze now. I've blinded myself. I'm on this. Here we go. And at times, there have been moments when like it's been difficult to rise up. You know, it's not about perfect, but I think it's a practice. Practice. And that's also a big thing with leadership too. Practice is at the end of the day. You know, and giving grace to those moments when I'm not exuding leadership or I'm not rising above it. I'm not exercising it. It's okay. That's part of the human experience. That also needs some acknowledgement. And like I said, to give grace to myself. I don't know how you are, but just for myself, give myself grace because I'm already hard on myself at times as can be. I don't need to add to that. No thanks. I'm someone that actually works on my relationship with myself because I know how much of a difference it can make in my other relationships. And one of the things I love about going back to the excerpt that stood out to me, where it said, I don't have leadership, I am leadership. And I don't know, for some reason, I think about like muscles. Like our physical bodies, you all have muscles. Right? There's no person on this planet that doesn't have muscles. They're biologically, their body would not function normally if they didn't have muscles. Like the muscles serve a purpose, right? And when people work and develop them, and it shows visually, right? So to me, I think about leadership. It's like, and why I bring this up is to avoid thinking lack, because oftentimes I hear people talk about, like they think lack because the concept is around other people. Oh, I can't lead people. I don't have it. No. You have leadership. You are leadership because you're yourself. Your energy, you are directed. You came into this lifetime with that sense of direction and like, I'm on a mission. That right there, I mentioned right there, I am a soul with a purpose and a plan. That is a leader. A leader themselves coming into this. So you are a leader of yourself. How do you feel about it? Well, allow me to tell you, you are a leader. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care what you have done. You are a leader. You need to be. Because if not you, who else? And if you're not leading your life, for me, if I'm not leading my life, I'm not living. To live my life is to lead my life. To live my life is to lead my life. I need to do that. I need to be at the front, at the tip of the spear of my experiences going through my path, which is uncharted. Going in uncharted territory is a good thing at times, I think, because it tells me, hey, I'm going somewhere I need to go. Rather than going to somewhere familiar or going down the path someone else has gone, living according to other people's standard. No thanks. I'll pick and choose what works for me, learn from others, and then pick and choose what works for me. And if it works for me, it can work for other people. And so, there it is, I think leadership is all about that. To wrap up, leadership is all about that inside out, not outside in. And to operate from that inside out is actually a measure of spiritual maturity. Because, like I said, how can I hope to help lead people, or a person, if I can't do that myself? So I think the invitation this month is to look at ways that you're leading yourself, right? Even just like maybe write it down. Like, what are some ways that you're a leader of yourself? And I hope at this point in the episode, I kind of giving you a bigger picture, looking at the different ways of how, your leadership works. I hope you can identify some key stuff for yourself in your life. And then maybe list out what are some ways where you're not exercising your leadership and you're kind of getting yourself into things that you don't need to be involved in. It could be having to do with it related to emotions. Maybe you have cravings that you're dealing with as well too. It could be a discipline thing. It could be how you spend your time, what it is that you're consuming. That's a big one. Like, think about the phone, for example. That right there, oof. I can lose my sense of leadership just getting caught up in the phone, doom scrolling on social media. Oof. Right? So I think leadership is directing my energy with where I'm at right now, not in the future, not in the past, but right now. What it is am I doing? What will I do now? Or what am I doing now? So take a moment to list those out. And how I would look at that, the stuff that's like affecting your leadership or affect you leading yourself, just see those as like, okay, those are like alarms. Okay, I'm going through this. All right, I got an alarm. Let me come back. Let me come back to myself. I don't need to do this. So it's like almost like looking for those clues to catch yourself. Like, oh, okay, I'm feeling, okay, this thing's coming up. And then where you are excelling in your own leadership, build on that. Or even just ask the question, how can I build on my leadership in those areas where I know I exercise that well? X, Y, Z, whatever the case may be. How can I expand that? Because I think the important thing is like to build on the good that I've got going on, the good that you've got going on. And you've got some good things going on. I don't need to know you to know that. So it's like to build on that. And then just to be aware of the not so good. Not to let it to stop me or create friction. Just, okay, here it is. There's that maze. There's that pattern. Oh, I'm getting myself emotionally rattled up. Oh, wait, I'm good. Even as something as simple as breath work can be a good way to reclaim personal leadership. And that's something that actually I use for myself. That and cleansing technique and many other things and tools that I've learned, that I've tapped into, that are also available to you if you want to check them out in the show notes as well. Check out the materials there because there's a lot of good, important stuff there. In addition to like education, all those important things. The things that I share. Things that contribute to how I show up in life. And so, go forth, my friend. Go forth, leader, captain. And you're at the helm of your own ship. And all the people that are there, even your spirit guides, they're all there to just, assist you. But not to take over the helm. Because it's you that always has the helm of your ship. Always through and through. And so, Captain, leader, this has been another episode of the Spiritual Engineer Podcast. I'm your host, Alvin Cepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.